Non-Stop Rock Talk with Tyson Bryden. Welcome to Non-Stop Rock Talk. This is your host, Tyson Bryden, coming to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Today, I'm happy to welcome House of Lords and autographed lead guitarist Jimi Bell. Jimi, welcome, man. How are you doing?
Tyson, how are you, buddy? I'm very glad we could get this all arranged here and make it happen finally.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was a little bit of a journey. It was a few days. I had internet issues, but we got that all fixed. So here we are. It's all good.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So I have to ask, how are you making out in 2021 COVID? For any artist, it has to have been tough. I see a lot of things you post on Facebook. You obviously play a lot of guitar.
Yeah, it's been a real nightmare, very difficult. I tell this story, I waited a long time for a lot of different things to happen, but it was a real honor for the guys from Autograph to call me, when Steve Lynch decided that he didn't want to play with the band anymore and wanted to go off on his own. It was a real honor for me to join the band. I love the guys. I get along with them incredible. We connected like magic. We sounded like we had been playing together for years when we first, our first rehearsal together. So the thing that was, sort of depressing is that, I got in the band in August of 2019, and, I did a handful of shows, and the last thing I did was really the Monsters of Rock cruise in February of 2020, and then right as we got off the boat, COVID really hit.
Yeah.
And, I had a whole summer of shows packed with Autograph. I mean, going everywhere, Puerto Rico, all over the place. And we were supposed to go to England the following month. And everything just got postponed and postponed and postponed. Luckily, I didn't lose anything, maybe one or two. But, and I did get to play two off shows out of the entire 2020, one in Colorado and one in Iowa, which I was grateful for. But even right up to recently, about a month and a half ago, I was supposed to be in Florida with Autograph and Great White, and that show got canceled the day before we were leaving.
Oh.
And it was the week of the show or anything, and I was all psyched. We all were. We're all psyched up, going, "Oh, this is great! We're going to get to play this show." And it was strange. Motor pulled it right the night before we were leaving, and then we were supposed to just do one in Georgia. It came in and then went out as fast as we got it. Oh man! But I'm kind of, I'm looking forward to 2021. I got a lot of stuff booked, and I'm just, praying to God that it goes through,
Yeah. I have to ask you about the Monsters of Rock cruise. Had you done one before?
No, it was my first one.
And what was that like? I've heard great stories about it.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. It really is. First off, I've never even been, I've flown all over the world, especially with House of Lords. I've been everywhere with them. So flying is not an issue whatsoever. But I have to tell you, I was a little bit taken when I walked up and saw that monstrous cruise ship. I've never been on a cruise ship, let alone even saw one. So it was a bit overwhelming to me. But, once I got off the boat and, got my cabin and everything, and I had this really nice girl that the band is friends with. I had contacted her because I never was on a cruise and everything. She's been on a bunch of them. So she gave me a couple patches, motion sickness patches, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And I heard stories about some musicians that actually were on the cruise, prior cruises, and actually did get sick. So I didn't want that to happen to me on my, first time, trying to perform on a boat. So, she gave me these patches, and I put one, behind the ear, and it worked great.
Good.
I had no problem. And it was a great experience. I have a lot of friends in the music business anyway, acquaintances, and it was great to see them. A lot of them were performing, but I got to talk to a bunch of people that I hadn't had the opportunity to speak with for a while. And it was just an awesome experience all the way around. I still got my exercise in because I'm a huge exercise fanatic of walking, cardio.
Yeah.
So the main cafeteria was quite a distance. So I would walk it instead of taking elevators up to it. I would walk the whole boat. It was on all the way to the other side of the ship. So I tried to get my miles in walking around the ship as well.
Oh, that's smart.
Always stairs, never taking the elevators.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. How many shows would you play on the cruise?
You're on the boat. Every band, I believe, played twice.
Okay.
But you got to remember, you're looking at a list of like 40 bands on that.
Crazy. I know.
And our singer Simon Daniels also had a solo performance, acoustic solo performance, which Randy Rand, our bassist, and myself actually got up with him and sang backgrounds on a couple songs. And I had never done that before. So that was another first. I never walked up onto a stage while an acoustic guitar player was playing and just sang harmony parts.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very cool time. And then I was part of another Tyson Leslie. He's the manager / keyboard player for Vixen.
Yeah.
He puts together a hair jam, I believe it was called. And they had me play with, he puts together all these musicians from all the bands that are going to be on the cruise. And, makes a band list of who's going to play with who. And so I got to, he wanted me to do Can't Find My Way Home, the House of Lords version.
Yeah, cool.
So I did that with him and a couple other people. And then Roxy, the drummer from Vixen, joined me for Highway Star. And Brandon Cook from Black and Blue played with me. It was just a lot of great people. Two of the cats from Faster Pussycat were with me on it too. They're awesome musicians. A really cool thing, but we killed Highway Star, man. We nailed that thing.
Is it on YouTube?
I'm not sure. Somebody did film it though. I had they sent it to me, and it was me, the guitarist from Faster Pussycat. He just happened to learn the harmony part of the guitar solo in Highway Star. So, and I always played the main thing. So
yeah,
we just automatically we went to it and we were playing both sections and we didn't even rehearse it. It was just
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That was the cruise that Cold Sweat came back. Do you know that? Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were great.
Yeah, they. I saw a bunch of footage of it and I was like, wow, they sound great. So. I have to get on that cruise at some point. I hope I can. I mean, we can't even get across our border. So,
really, right now,
we can't get out of Canada. So, even if there are shows this year in the States, I can't go to them. So, I mean, because I went to M3 2 years ago. It was before you joined Autograph. The Autograph was there, and they were great. But even if it does happen, there's no chance of me going.
Yeah, my webmaster, Terry Lane, is from. Were you Toronto, Ontario?
Yeah, I'm 45 minutes east of Toronto.
Yeah, she's up in Canada there, right near you, and she's been doing all my web design for years now, and she tells me all the time things that are going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. We were locked down until yesterday. We're in what they call a red zone now. So, I mean, to go to the gym, as I told you yesterday when we spoke, 10 people in the gym and trying to get, it's on my phone. I can book it, but I can't even get in. It's it's nuts. So, a good thing I have a treadmill at home.
Yeah, I told you I wanted to get my exercise in, so I did my 8 miles on the treadmill before you even called me today. So at least I got that part of it in.
That's good, man. That's awesome. Now, I want to ask you about the early days, your early days. You played in a Connecticut band called Joint Forces in the 80s.
Yeah.
I checked out that album. I guess it's on YouTube from 1989. I guess it's from material from 86 to 89, I believe.
Well, yeah, no, we had, there were two versions of Joint Forces. The first version was when we put this band together in the early 80s. And when we did it, we wanted to come out. There were a lot of bands doing original music and covers. But we wanted to come out and do just all original music. We wanted to make it more like a rock show. And nobody had done that yet in the area. So we took a chance. We weren't sure how it was going to go over. We weren't sure if the club owners were even going to accept us or let us, play because, it was different times.
Yeah.
But it went over huge. And we did it as a concert, so we had we always had a warm-up band or a couple of them, and then we would go up and play an hour and a 90-minute set, hour and a half. That band ended up getting hooked up with Joan Jett's management. Yeah. Someone that worked with Joan Jett took us on. He was partnered with a guy that owned a tour bus company. So what happened is Joan Jett's going to do an East Coast tour, and we didn't even have a record deal, but we had a 3-song cassette. Yeah. And they put us out on tour with Joan Jett. We had our own tour bus. And
really? Wow.
Because we were in our 20s, and we had the time of our life. I mean, you got to understand, we're kids. Yeah. We weren't making any money. I think they gave us $10 a day just to eat, but we didn't care. We were on a tour bus. We were out playing and opening for Joan Jett. We didn't care if we were getting paid. So that was a great experience. Joan Jett's the most wonderful person you could ever meet. At least she always was to me.
Yeah.
Her and I got along very well. I was the only other person in the band that she actually that took a photo with her and I together. Nobody has one. So it was very cool. We talked every time she came around after that. I would always get hooked up and go back and talk with her, and always treated me great. But then the opportunity came up. There was a movie that was being done with Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett, where they were brother and sister, and they were in a rock band in the movie. And they needed a band, another band for a certain scene. So we ended up getting the part. And, we went to Chicago and filmed our scene there. It was absolutely insane, being on a motion picture set. I've never experienced anything like that. Michael J. Fox was absolutely incredible. Wonderful, wonderful person. I sat and ate breakfast with him many times at the set, lunch. It was an experience I'll never forget as long as I live.
That's cool. And that movie was The Light of Day, right?
Light of Day, yeah.
The Light of Day.
We're called the Huns in the movie.
Huns.
I'm telling you, I know you asked about Joint Forces, but there were two versions of Joint Forces. This was early Joint Forces. This was the first. So that's why I didn't want to skip over and backtrack. So that band was in the movie, Light of Day. And it was kind of weird. Like, our manager, instead of running with that, after his band just gets in a big motion picture and stuff, even though it wasn't a huge picture for Michael J. Fox because it was his first serious role. Everybody used to him doing comical roles, more or less. But it was still a great movie, and he could have done a lot with the band, and he just kind of dropped the ball and went back to work with Joan Jett, went on the road, and that was it. It was kind of strange.
That is strange.
Yeah, but those things, I could write a book of things that have happened to me like that throughout my life, with experiences like this. I'm sure you'll cover some of them in the interview. But yeah, so then after a while, fast forward, there was another Join Forces, and I put that together. But in between that was me working with Ozzy and Guitarist and all that. So
yeah, I've got some questions about that, but we'll come back to that because I do want to ask you about that. And I know you've talked about it, but I may have some questions that I was kind of thinking about that, but we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah.
That album that I heard on YouTube, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was a great band. Join Forces just we wrote some really good songs, and the second version of the band, I really liked their singer a lot.
He was good.
Yeah, he had a very bluesy type voice, and it was a cool thing, But the problem that happened with the band, which is the same thing that happened with House of Lords, the original House of Lords before I joined, is that it came in too late.
Yeah.
That band started we came in 88, 89. We're hitting in the 90s now.
Yeah.
And that's when all of a sudden the Seattle thing happened. Nirvana came, and then all the hair metal music just went away.
Yeah.
So the timing for the band was kind of hard, and the only bands that really survived that whole crush was the ones that were pretty established, your Motley Crue, your Rat, DC, things like that.
Yeah.
Those bands were able to sustain throughout the 90s.
Yeah, it was, I don't think people realize, okay, we talk about 88, 89, and people could go, well, it was like 91 when it started to fall apart, but say you come out in 80, 88, 89, the bands that, say, like Cinderella, for instance, and Poison, they came out in 86, but technically they got signed in 85, so everything was still going strong, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So to clarify that, it's kind of like, okay, if you were signed late, there was going to be, it wasn't going to go as well as you had hoped, right?
We had that band Join Forces too. We had a song that the record company seemed to really like, one particular tune, and we did a bunch of showcases for some really heavy-duty labels. We were in New York, showcasing at SIR Studios. And it was one of those things where I think when they saw the band live, they liked the song they heard, but there was something about when they visually saw the band, I think that they didn't like. I don't know why, but, they loved this one song. And that's the whole reason they came out. But for some reason, and the band was great live. It wasn't the performance of the band. I don't know if it was the way somebody looked in the band, or, I always said, and that always baffled me because, record companies were like this. Well, they could have always said, well, sorry, we love your band, but we don't like this person. We need you to, lose this guy, and we'll sign you. One thing. But
I looked up that album on Discogs to see if I could find it, and I couldn't. So, which was unfortunate because I listened to it the first time, and I thought, wow, why did this? It's such a strange thing. You listen to some bands and you go, why didn't they get signed? And then you listen to another band that was signed, and you go, I don't get this. I don't understand how they even got signed. You know what I mean? It's such a weird thing.
It is. It's a very. It's timing. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It's luck. It's timing.
I know. It's frustrating though. As you, the artist, it had to be. It would be frustrating. It totally would, because the band is great. The songs are there. The singer's great.
Let me just explain. I'll just tell you this real quick. Look at Autograph, and because Ray told me the story. Autograph wasn't even a band.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were put together in the studio, and their old drummer, the original drummer, was best friends with David Lee Roth. They were, jogging. They used to go jogging together. So him and David were talking, and it was one of those things. He's telling him about this band he's putting together, and so they didn't even have a record deal. They didn't have practically anything. And the next thing you know, they're out opening for Van Halen on the 1984 or something like that.
It was, and the album, and I believe the album wasn't even out.
Autograph is the direct support opening for these guys, Like it just goes to show you it's, they were best friends. So there you go. Sure, I'll put you out on tour with us.
When I've read that story a few times, when I read it, I just shake my head. I'm like, really? That doesn't happen a lot. That's amazing, but
yeah,
that's crazy. Now getting to Ozzy. So you auditioned for Ozzy back in '87. Zach was already working with the band?
Yeah. I was endorsed by Kramer Guitars, and they contacted me. They were kind of handling me, the guitar company. They were the biggest guitar company in the 80s.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, they had Eddie Van Halen and every other, Richie Sambora, everybody.
Yep.
Think of. And they contacted me and said, hey, Jimmy, Jakey Lee is out of Ozzy. And they're auditioning guitar players. And we sent Sharon Osbourne your video, and she likes it, and you have to fly to LA. And I said, I'll never forget, it was a Wednesday morning they contacted me. And I said to her, I said to the woman from Kramer, I said, okay, when? I said, am I, next week? Or she goes, no, today, your flight is booked. You have to get to the airport right now.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't expecting that. My flight was leaving at 2:00 in the afternoon. So, I fly to LA. Now, I know that they had already been working with Zach a bit. I believe Mark Weiss, the photographer, the famous rock photographer, had turned Zach on, turned them on to Zach or whatever. But so they fly to California. They pick me up when I get to this beautiful hotel. They, drop a couple $100 into my hand for spending money. It was
wow.
Cool. That day, I had to go and play with Randy and Phil from the band.
Yeah.
And so I went. And that's how they audition guitar players, because obviously, there were so many guitar players that auditioned for the spot that Ozzy wasn't going to sit through that. They had the job of weeding them out.
Yeah,
going through all the audition. So I happen to go there. I get picked up, and Sharon is sitting there, and she wanted to see if what she saw on the videotape was really, the way that I played. So I played and I nailed it, and she says, okay, you're gonna play with Ozzy within the next day or so. So I believe it was the next day.
Right.
I went to a different studio with a big huge stage and big massive PA in there, and that's where Ozzy comes walking in, and
wow.
I had to do my thing. I had to go up and play a bunch of songs. And I always tell this story. It's pretty funny. I'm not sure who this guy was. There was a guy from Sweden, not Yngwie, but because he was already starting to get popular. It was somebody else, and he got to audition with Ozzy as well. I think, I don't even know how it happened, but he went up on stage before me. So I'm up there watching, and I'm watching this guy. They're doing Flying High again, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. Because he's from Sweden, and Yngwie was getting popular, with sweeping arpeggios and doing all this stuff. Well, when it came time in the guitar solo, instead of doing the traditional, very cool tap part that Randy wrote,
yeah. Right.
Arpeggiated sequence that Randy Rhoads tap going backwards. This guy decided to change it into sweeping arpeggio. So it was going, like this. And Ozzy was standing behind him. I swear this happened. And Ozzy his eye got wide, and he was making like he was stabbing him with a knife,
No way.
Yeah, making like he was choking him to death, like this. And then he turned around and Ozzy gave him the thumbs up, like, "Hey, you're doing great," It was funny to see. But I'm glad I saw that because when it came time for me to go up and play, I kind of kept my eyes on Ozzy where he was,
Yeah.
But I went up there and I played, pretty much, I did things a little bit different, but I still kept it real. I didn't try to vary it too much. And I had a great groove going that whole week. So I went up and I remember the first song was I Don't Know. And so Ozzy's standing at the mic and I start off the song and the band kicks in and we're locking in really good. So Ozzy starts doing that thing he does where he's holding the mic and rocking back and forth,
Yeah.
It was so cool. And when I did the guitar solo, he came and went right in front of my guitar amp, knelt down and listened to the amp as I was soloing. So it was a great experience. I did about 5 songs, and a guitar solo by myself. Had to do a little bit of, just improv.
Yep.
And when I got done, Sharon and Ozzy sat down with me and said, it's between you and Zach.
Wow.
So that was kind of like a freaky thing because, I wasn't expecting that really, but, I'm thrilled that I got that close. I'm thrilled that I got that close, and I'm not thrilled because, honestly, it's one of those things that'll haunt you the rest of your life. It's a great story because I've talked about it so many times. But
yeah, you have.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, so you mentioned you played with Randy Castillo and Phil, how do you pronounce his last name? Suzanne?
Yeah, something like that.
Like that, right? So that's the Ultimate Sin lineup. But of course, Phil was gone before No Rest for the Wicked was even released. And I think Bob Daisley ended up playing on the album, but Geezer Butler is in the liner notes, right? In the photos. So
yeah, so there's the thing. So I get, they end up keeping Zach. Zach was more, definitely more of a Randy Rhoads. He doesn't look like he does now. Zach was tall like Randy. He was blonde, So I'm sure that had, something to do with it. Not to mention, Zach was, he's a great player, but he was even more, he was a little bit different even back then.
Right.
So, I get a phone call about a month later, and I answer it, and it's this English chap on the phone, and he says his name is Geezer Butler. I flipped out.
No way.
I didn't believe it for a second, but Sharon must have really liked my playing enough because Geezer was putting together something. Passed on my video to Geezer. Which was so cool of her to do that. So I get a phone call. I get flown to St. Louis. Geezer had a house in St. Louis with his wife, Gloria. I think maybe Gloria had family there, possibly. I did some work with him there and flew back home. And it was weird when Geezer picked me up. When I flew into St. Louis, Geezer's the one that picked me up at the airport. For some reason, I was expecting like a driver to pick me up, but Geezer's there,
That'd be weird. That'd be cool.
Oh, there's the Black Sabbath, a legend, picking me up here. So the first thing we do is we go to a pub, go to the local bar in the airport and have a couple beers. And it was very cool. So I stayed there a couple days, flew home, and the next thing I was on a plane to London. And then we started some rehearsals there and, did showcases. And that's where I wrote the song Master of Insanity and that whole ordeal.
Which you did not get credit for, apparently.
Right.
Right.
It's one of those things, I came home and this is after, Ozzy had done, after Geezer had done the record with Ozzy, the video there, Miracle Man and everything. So apparently Ronnie Dio's getting back together with Black Sabbath, Dehumanizer album. I get a call from Gloria Butler, and she says, Jimmy, I have great news. We're going to use your song, Master of Insanity, on the new Black Sabbath record, and I was, thrilled. But then she, drops the bomb and says, but there's, one problem. We can't say that you wrote it because Tony Iommi would never let a song by another guitar player on a Black Sabbath record. We have to say that Geezer wrote it. She goes, so Geezer will put your name in a special thanks, and then when the tour is over, we will pay you for the song. Well, I wasn't going to argue, about it, or what was I going to say? I didn't,
Right.
I was just thrilled to have a song that I wrote that Ronnie Dio was going to be singing on, So I didn't argue the point. And, of course, they did the tour. I went and saw them on that tour. They played my song live. The reviews of the record always mentioned my song. Yeah. As one of the good, better songs. But, when the tour ended, I never received anything. Well, I wasn't expecting to anyway, but that's the way it goes in this business.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Now, getting back to the Ozzy audition, did they ask you if, in terms of material that you might have that could lead to songs for the new record? Did anything like that happen?
No, it never got to that point. I think they basically asked me what songs I wanted to play, what songs I knew. I didn't really know any of the ones that Jake did. I only knew of a handful of Andy. I didn't have a lot of preparation time either. I was kind of caught off guard when I was going to leave. They gave me an afternoon.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to kind of know a few songs just to get away with, your crazy, your Flying High, Crazy Train. I don't know, because I had played those songs. Maybe Over the Mountain. I can't remember if I played. I did. I can't remember if I played that one. Suicide Solution, maybe I played, but but my preparation time was very small. I didn't have a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, you're going on a plane. See you later. Here you go.
This afternoon, you gotta go.
So I guess more or less you brought your guitar with you and plugged into their whatever gear they had there.
I literally only brought my, because I'm left-handed, I couldn't use anything anyway. I brought an EQ pedal, because I didn't know what kind of amp that they had, and I wanted to be able to boost it up a little bit just in case. So I brought this 7-band Boss EQ. I didn't use a lot of pedals. I've never used a lot of pedals anyway. I've never been one of those guitar players that, had a whole rack here full of stuff.
Yeah.
I've always only had a couple things on the floor. Even to this day, I have a wah-wah pedal, an overdrive, and sometimes a chorus pedal on my board. And it wasn't until I joined Autograph that I had to use a delay pedal.
I was going to say, I bet you have to use a delay now.
Yeah. I've never used my amp with an effects loop ever. I've never even plugged anything into the effects loop of my amp. I never did.
Wow.
But once I joined Autograph, I needed to use a delay, and then I had to put a little boost after the delay for, like, when I do a solo, pedal just to boost my leads up a little bit louder. So, those are a couple things that I've never had to deal with before that I ended up having to deal with,
Are you strictly a Marshall guy, or what do you?
Yeah, I've always been a Marshall guy. I've tried a couple other amps. I've used Laney amps back in the Joint Forces days. I had, Laney's, always had Marshall. I had a deal with, when we did the movie, I had a deal with Seymour Duncan amps. Seymour Duncan came out with an amplifier rig for a while, and they were called convertibles. And what they had was they had modules that you could swap right side of the amp. You would lift open the top, and they would sell these separate modules that you would put in.
It's cool.
Yeah, and you created these different amp sounds with these modules. And the amps were great. I had gotten a fantastic tone out of them. But, of course, there was some issues with them. And I guess it got to be too much for the company to maintain. I don't know if it's a matter of selling things, too, if things were selling that good.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in theory it would be a great concept, but it was probably expensive.
Yeah.
I switched from Marshall last year to Hughes and Kettner.
Yeah, great amps.
Because I'm not playing big arenas or anything, I'm playing in bars. So it's just a 40-watt head, but it is friggin' loud.
Yeah.
And I can put the wattage down on it too.
Yeah, Hughes and Kettner makes great stuff. There's a lot of, so much good stuff out there now. There really is.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. I mean, you go into the music store and you're like, you just look around and you're like, all these new names that you're not familiar with, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I was, the Marshall, I use I always request a JCM 2000.
Yeah.
When I perform. I know a lot of people like the 900s. I've used those, and I know Zach uses the 800s, and the 2000 that I have is an older one. It's from like when they first came out in 1999, before they started making them all over the place. And I really like the early ones a lot. I played a couple that are, newer, and, I'm a little iffy on them. So if I try to avoid, like, if I had to ever get another one, I wouldn't, because I would never buy a brand.
Yeah. It's funny. I think I did a fly-in gig once out in Alberta, and I used one there, and they had it. And it was fine, but, like, for you, when you're doing stuff like that, are you bringing gear like that? Like when you're flying in to say you're going to play the M3 or something, are they supplying your backline?
Yes. Every place that I go, they have to supply backline. You tell them, we have a rider, just like, it has everything on it. It has your catering. It has what you need. But obviously the backline is the most important thing. Yeah. And usually, Marshalls are pretty much industry standard for all backline companies. Like the 2000s and 900s are pretty much always available.
Yeah.
That's like a standard thing. Every company I've ever gone to always has that. Now, when I played in Japan with House of Lords, Loud Park, that festival,
right?
I could have requested an amp from outer space and they would have gotten it.
Really? Were that amazing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have. When I walked into that backstage area, I just couldn't believe all the different amps. And trust me, there were a lot of bands there that requested some amps that I was surprised that they were able to get. I mean, weird things, some boutique amps, but you got them.
Really? So, I mean, do you, like you mentioned the 2000s, do you specify that you'd prefer an old one, or you just go with just getting the...
Most of the backline companies all have them. Some of the older ones.
Yeah.
I can't specify too much. Say, it has to be,
Yeah.
A lot of times you're just very grateful that they even get what you're asking for. I'm good with that. I've had to use the 900 heads a couple times. I don't mind using the 900s, but I definitely prefer a 2000 because I'm just because I'm used to it.
Yeah. I mean, for years I used, before I got that, and I use a Kotzen fly rig, because one gig I did a fly out to, they totally screwed us with our backline because we weren't making, it was a flying gig to go to another gig the next day, and I I got there, and this amp was the same place I had played before, but this time they tried to skimp on the gear. And this guy brings this amp from home, and I'm like, what am I going to do with that? So, and I don't even remember if I brought any. I might have brought a couple pedals with me, but it was a nightmare, and we ended up having to turn it up and running it through the PA, and we got it to work. It wasn't great, but so after that I said, well, you know what, I'm going to buy a fly rig of some sort, so that if this ever happens again, I can just put it in my suitcase. It's only about, like this big, right? The Richard Kotzen fly rig. So if that ever happened again, I could use that. But before that, I used a
thing by Sans Amp.
Yeah, the Sans Amp is in it. It's made by Tech 21.
That's what I meant. The Tech.
Yeah, but I don't use that Sans Amp because I always have it off. I don't like it.
Oh, okay.
I don't like the reverb in it. It's some reverbs are really different. I don't like it, so I never turn it on. I use the distortion and the delay on it, and that's it. And then it's got a boost channel.
Running the amp with that, or into the line out?
No, I run it right into the amp. It seems to work better. I tried to use it in the preamp out to see how it would be, and there wasn't as much control, so the control on just running it on the front of the amp seems to work awesome.
I'll look into that. I'm curious. I'd like to check it out. I've only seen some videos and pictures of it. I never really got to mess around with one.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and I use a tube screamer with it too. So when I need a little bit more. Oh. And then, the distortion on it, there's lots of play with it as well. So I'm really happy with it. And then that amp has all these settings in it, almost like a Kemper, right? Like a styling, type of amp. So I had the JMP1 Marshall for years, which is the preamp, and I'd run it into my head into the preamp out, and I loved that. But you can't really fly out with that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so. I'm a little bit of a gear junkie. If new stuff comes out, I like to try it out and see what I can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's all good. And I'm getting back to the Ozzy audition. You mentioned Kramer. Did you audition using a Kramer guitar?
Yes, I did. I have Kramer Company was very generous to me. Back in the 80s, companies were giving guitars to people left and right because they wanted you to play them and endorse them. Now, I didn't even have a record deal, but Floyd Rose himself saw me play in a music store. They were doing, it's right as Floyd Rose had joined up with Kramer. And they were going around doing promotional things. And I had gotten my first Kramer guitar in, and I'm left-handed. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. So when Floyd, they didn't even make a left-handed Floyd Rose when I first got my first one. The first Floyd Rose I had was sort of one of their prototypes with the fine tuners.
Yeah.
So I had to bring it to a machine shop and have a hole drilled on the other side of the plate just for me to have a left-handed Floyd Rose because they weren't available yet. I did a clinic using my Kramer, but with the Floyd Rose that I made myself. And Floyd was there. And when I got done playing, he says to me, man, you should be endorsed by Kramer Guitars. I said, well, I would absolutely love that. I said, they're my favorite guitars. All my favorite players are using them. Yeah. So about a month goes by, and the president of the company, Dennis Berardi, is doing all these, going around to all his stores, introducing himself and whatnot. He walks into the store where I was, and he says, I hear I'm supposed to give you an endorsement. Yes, you are.
Of course you are.
So next thing I know, I'm being loaded up with guitars. I'm going to the Kramer factory in New Jersey. I'm going to Dennis's house. Here I am. He's inviting me over to his house. He says, did you ever take a drive in a Ferrari? And I've never been in a Ferrari. I says, no. So he goes, hang on. So he pulls out of the garage with his red Ferrari. He goes, let's go. And he goes burning up and down the streets of New Jersey with this thing. And then I'm in a limousine with him. We're at the airport picking up Dweezil Zappa. And I'm
no way. Cool.
going, oh my God. I go, what the heck is going on here? So he obviously really liked me a lot. I'll tell you what also they were going to do. Dennis Berardi was going to do this big promotion on me. And it's pretty funny. They were going to have it called, it was going to say, who the hell is Jimi Bell?
Yeah.
I was going to be the thing. They were going to do a whole back cover of Guitar Player magazine for about 4 or 5 months. My picture, a silhouette of me, was going to appear on the back cover saying, who the hell is Jimi Bell? Who the hell is Jimi Bell? Then, the final month, there I would be, appeared a full picture of me. But during that time, Kramer Guitarist decided to get involved with this Russian band, Gorky Park.
I remember them.
Yeah. So Kramer had this, they had it in their mind that they were going to bring, we were having a little conflict between us and Russia. So they figured we'll bring a Russian band, over, and the Kramer guitars are from the U.S. We'll join them together, be like bringing the Russia and the U.S. together, whatever it was thinking. Now, back then, there wasn't much of anything for internet, so they were making daily calls back and forth to Russia, making for hours, making all this. So you can imagine what that must have cost alone.
Yeah.
Putting this whole thing together, and before you know it, they spent a lot of money on this thing tanked. Then really, like right after that, the company folded. They had spent so much money on trying to do this thing, and that was really disappointing to me. I had an opportunity. Now, this was another thing I did wrong. I had an opportunity to go with Fernandez Guitars, and Dennis Berardi caught wind of it, that Fernandez made me an offer, and he begged me not to leave the company. It was very disappointing because right after that, he got involved in the Russian thing, and the thing folded.
Wow. Wasn't Adrian Vandenberg, did he do Fernandez? I think he did for a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, wow.
Guitars Fernandez, I was really, that was a bad mistake. I should have done it, but Kramer had taken such good care of me. I felt like an ass, like bailing shit on them.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, didn't Gorky Park have that friggin' guitar that was like triangle shaped? It was the ugliest looking thing ever.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Was that a Kramer?
I don't even know if it was a Kramer. I think Kramer must have made it because it wasn't something that was sold, but they. It was one of those things that they were, that helped promote that band. So
that's crazy. Hey, I just noticed your autograph necklace, the logo. That is cool.
Yeah, this is a wonderful thing that happened. I was, since I joined the band, I saw the other guys have this, and Randy's wife Regina surprised me. On the morning we were getting on the ship because we flew down a day early. So I'm in the hotel lobby waiting for we're waiting for the car to pick us up to bring us to the cruise ship. She hands me this box, and they got my name on the back and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I was gonna ask you about. I have the 3 original albums on vinyl. Sign in, please. What's the second one? That's the Stuff and Loud and Clear.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the third one is actually my favorite album.
Loud and Clear?
Yeah.
It's a great album.
It is.
It's got a lot of good songs on it. That's my favorite songs to play live, Loud and Clear.
Cool.
That's actually one of the only other solos, other than Turn Up the Radio, that I pretty much learned. The great thing about joining Autograph is they know that I have a totally different style of playing than Steve Lynch. Like, my whole style of playing is alternate picking.
Yeah.
And Steve was basically, his whole thing was tapping. And I tap, but I had only tapped. Now I tap with my middle and ring all the time. I'm always using those too. But I used to only tap with my middle finger and got away with everything. But that was the best thing about joining Autograph is they they didn't say I had to learn any of the solos except for Turn Up the Radio. That was the only one. Obviously, you can't change that solo because it's so. That'd be like messing with Flying High again. You can't.
You can't play sweet picking.
Yeah. Right. Classic solo, your ear knows exactly every note of it. So I do it as close as I can. There's a couple spots where I think I do my own little thing, but I'm not one of those guitar players. I've never been a guitar player to sit and learn anything note for note. I play guitar so much, and I just never wanted to copy anybody. Yeah. I have friends of mine and other people that I see, they'll learn a piece by Eric Johnson note for note, or a Stevie Ray Vaughan piece, or a Yngwie Malmsteen piece note for note. I mean, God bless them that they can do that and they have the time and the ear to do that. I just don't. It's not something that I feel I want to do. I'm busy creating my own style. I've always been about creating myself as opposed to being a copy of anybody. And all the reviews that I even got, even back when I was interviewed for Guitar Player magazine by Mike Varney, who had the Spotlight column in the Guitar Player magazine back in 86. I was in there. And I used to read his columns every week. He'd do 3 guitar players. And every time he'd interview somebody, he would say, "Oh, this guy's a great guitar player. Sounds like, similar to this guy." He'd always mention their influence. You could hear who he's listened to,
Yeah.
In my review, he didn't compare me to anybody. He just says he's got one of the fastest. He didn't realize I was left-handed, so he said I had one of the fastest right hands in the business. Get that. I think he forgot that I was left-handed. But he was talking about my picking hand.
Yeah.
And, he went on to all these things that I do in my guitar solo. And, so that to me was the highest compliment of all, that he didn't compare me to anybody. So that was wicked cool.
I think that's a huge compliment. That's amazing. I mean, one of the other guys I think that I would love to see the write-up he wrote for Richie Kotzen, because I never thought that he has really sounded like anybody either.
No, he doesn't. He has his own. Even before Richie stopped using a pick.
Yeah.
Because Richie pretty much all plays with his fingers all the time now.
It's amazing.
Richie's insane. He always to me had his own style. I have my favorite shred guys. I've never been a neoclassical player. I don't play that style. Like, I know how to play harmonic minor scales. I play diminished scales. I know how to sweep arpeggios. But it's not what I like to listen to. Like, I love Steve Morris. I like, the way Steve Morris plays, where you could he's got the country stuff going on, but then but then he has all the other scale modes. I think that's, amazing. Eric Johnson is someone that I have a lot of respect for, that I think is, if I had to say, if someone said to me, who's like a guitar player you think is, that all around covers everything. Eric's really one of those guys that, you could say covers all these different
spectrum. Yeah. I saw him open for Joe Satriani, actually. Probably 10, 15 years back. He was phenomenal. Great show.
Yeah. It's insane. But, I've been asked before, who's your favorite shred guy? And it's so hard to pick because I have so many of them and I have respect for every single one of them. I love every single one of the shred guys. I think they're great. But I've always had a thing for Paul Gilbert. Paul Gilbert has something special about his playing different, because he doesn't go after the neoclassical style. But he has a lot of blues licks, and he's just unique. I always found Paul Gilbert to be extremely unique.
I agree with that, because when you think of even the Mr. Big stuff, say on Lean Into It, like a song like Road to Ruin, where he's like, it's got a bluesy vibe to it, and you'd think a player like him wouldn't have that feel, but he does. You know what I mean? He fits to what the song is, I think.
I'll never forget a longtime friend of mine, Chris Pelletieri, who I influenced his playing tremendously. Chris was more of He's from Connecticut originally. He was more of a Randy Rhoads style guitar player until he saw me play. Once he saw me play, I changed his life. He told me. He says from that point he wanted to be one of the fastest guitar players you could possibly be. So that's what he went after. But I'll never forget. And there was this interview in some Japan magazine where they were interviewing Paul Gilbert and Chris Impellitteri at the same time, and Chris just happened to mention that I was his influence, and then
that's cool.
Somewhere Paul says, "Oh, is that guy from Connecticut or something?" You know, so I
really.
So cool, you know.
That is cool, man. That's wicked. And, I mean, Chris Impellitteri had his band was called Impellitteri at one point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were I listened to a lot of those shred guys too. I mean, like there were so many back in the day, and it was awesome. Like Mike Varney really, was dropping no records.
Yeah. No, he brought them all forward, which is great. There's so many great players, you know. But like I said, I will never sit. If I sit and listen to anybody too long, when I sit down to practice, I'll start
playing like them.
Much of that, like if I spend a day listening to Yngwie Malmsteen play, I'll pick up my guitar and start, automatically playing harmonic minor scales or finish, and that's not really what I want to do. I'll take something that Yngwie does. For example, there's this one little passage he does on a high E string, this picking pattern, and it's this little finger thing that he does that I have a difficult time playing it. It's just something that I normally wouldn't play. So what I did was I created my own idea off of that. So
that's cool.
Basically, I'm using all the same notes, but I created my own picking pattern that made it comfortable for me. And that says a lot. In other words, I'm not sitting wasting like days, weeks, months trying to copy what he's already done, because he's already done it. It's his. I don't look at things like, if you sit and waste all this time, well, that's great, you can play it, but this has already been done. You're wasting time where you could become creating your own skills as a guitar player to try and copy something that somebody else does note for note.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I didn't mention, the reason I played in a band, but it was a tribute band, so we did Bon Jovi, right?
Yeah.
So I had to learn all those solos note for note. But now I'm I'm doing another thing. We're trying to get this off the ground, and I'm having a hard time with it, because for me it's like, I don't want to learn this stuff because I have to learn someone's stuff note for note. When I practice now, I'm practicing the stuff that I want to, that is me. You know what I mean? So doing the cult, that style of guitar playing is not really how I play now.
You do? I love the cult.
I do too. But it's just a hard thing, because I have to learn it pretty well note for note. But it's not my style anymore.
Here's the thing about playing with cover bands. I've learned, because I've played with so many. When you're playing cover material, if you grab key sections of the solo, that's really the important thing of what you have to grab. Grabbing something and playing everything exactly note for note, to me, isn't necessary. But there are sections of a solo that are key things that will be sadly missed if you're.
I agree with that. Like, for instance, like Edie Chow Baby, there's, the stuff, the fast playing, people aren't really going to notice that you're playing that note for note as much. But the key the really key parts, like, a run that is like kind of like a Led Zeppelin thing, where you've got to learn that note for note, because people they remember that, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like learning something note for note isn't necessary. But grabbing, and when you're doing cover music, grabbing anything that's a key section is good. my cover band, one of my tribute bands, Beyond Purple, we do. It's a tribute to the Deep Purple family tree. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. By the way, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, Deep Purple, Rainbow, all the singers of Rainbow. We cover all the different singers Richie had, and then of course, Whitesnake. We do a boatload of Whitesnake. I love doing the Whitesnake stuff a lot. Not just because I know some of the guys in Whitesnake, but just because I really enjoy doing the Whitesnake stuff. But when we do Still of the Night, I do the solo. I start off, and the run that I do, leading up to the real high notes. Right after the solo, you hear John Sykes doing this. This run. I do my own run, and don't tell me that someone's going to stand up in the audience and go, "He's not doing that run note for note," because they won't know that I'm not doing it, and it sounds just like it to me. But am I going to sit and go, "Okay, is John doing this? Is John doing that?" But I will have to learn, like if you're doing the solo of Here I Go Again, da 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 da. You got to do that. You can't just there's a melody there.
That's right.
So
that's what I was getting at. Stuff with melody. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So you have to play the melodies. If there's a melody being played and you don't play that, that's sadly missed.
Yeah.
But as far as when it starts, when the haywire stuff goes on, you pretty much could do your own thing as long as you don't go like way out of key. If you don't go.
Yeah, that's true. I mean. It's funny when you talk about Whitesnake because, you watch Adrian Vandenberg when he was in Whitesnake, and he didn't play a lot of the stuff note for note. He played some of it his style, right?
Yeah.
But when Doug Aldrich got the gig, he pretty much played everything exactly as it was.
Yeah. Now, for example, when we do Crying in the Rain, and that solo, I wanted to sit and learn Crying in the Rain, John Sykes, because it's
yeah.
He does a real triplet picking thing at the beginning. Very weird solo, but I absolutely, I think it's very cool. It was just cool. A lot of.
Yeah, that is a great solo. No doubt about it.
Yeah, so I just, I liked it. It's one of those things where I said, you know what? So I will, if there's something that I hear that I really like and say, you know what, I want to try to learn this. One of the solos that I pretty much do note for note with that also is when we do Is This Love, because that has just such a beautiful.
That's so good, yeah.
Solo in Is This Love is just like the way he's holding the notes and. John Sykes.
John Sykes is so good. I'm a huge John Sykes fan, so I love the Blue Murder stuff,
yeah.
and I'm happy to see he's coming out with a new album. Hopefully it'll see the light of day soon. But
yeah, I was hoping he would have released the song, and I was waiting for him to really take off a little bit.
He didn't though,
and he didn't do it. I was going, come on, I know, because I know it. Right there.
I know he's one of those guys. Like when there's just certain stuff, and his guitar sound and tone is so, especially on Is This Love, is so big. It's just
his guitar sound on the whole Whitesnake record.
Yeah,
is absolutely is amazing.
I agree.
It really is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, when you do the Is This Love solo, do you feel like your sound plays into part of that too? Because when you figure those
talk about how much better it sounds. But Beyond Purple started before I was in Autograph.
Yeah.
So this is prior to me using a delay pedal, but then now that I use the delay pedal all the time in my rig. So when I do Is This Love, and I have the delay pedal on. It just adds the air to it,
Yeah.
I really enjoy using the delay now. I hate to say it because I've never been one of those guys. I never wanted to rely on effects. I've never had a rack of effect or anything. I'm just not that guy. But the delay pedal in the system just really does something to your. It gives me a chance to breathe a little bit. I've been one of these guitar players that I played so much, and when you have a delay pedal going, you have a tendency not to and do something with a note and let it ring a little bit. So I guess effects can alter what you do as a player. Enhance, in other words.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I use, like, for instance, the cult stuff. I don't use delay on any of the electric stuff because the guitar is pretty bare bones. It's, like, there's no delay on it. You know what I mean? Which I love because I think without the delay, it makes you a better player. So your notes have to be a little bit more precise, and you have to really, make it stand out. And I find with delay, it makes it a little bit easier to I don't know, if you're using delay all the time, maybe when you go back to not using delay, it kind of, I notice it in my playing. It's like, oh, I better tighten that up a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I also, like I said, I don't want to rely on an effect.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of things, I never practice, like when I practice my guitar, very rarely do I even plug the guitar in. I usually play my electric guitar with no amp.
Yep.
And lately, a lot of times when I do plug it in, I just keep the guitar clean, unless I'm working on a tune and I want the distortion sound. But yeah, I try not to. I don't ever want to be one of those guys that relies on an effect.
It's funny that years ago, when I was a teenager, the guitar teacher I had him for a couple of years. That was his theory: was practice it without an amp and get really tight and proficient with that. And because a lot of times you'll plug in the amp and you'll be making mistakes, and but he said practice with the amp, of course, about down the road. But when you're just practicing at home, you're practicing your licks and just doing whatever, just do it without an amp. And
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you're sitting at your house practicing with full-on distortion, full-on delays, full-on, a lot of times, things are, you don't hear them because there's a lot of things that are being covered up. So you might be something, and you, us as guitar players, could fall into some pretty bad habits the more you do something.
Yeah.
I honestly, I've been talking it over with my buddy, and I find myself falling into some habits just from not playing out. I mean, me not playing out gigs, because when I play out, first off, I've been sitting down playing too much.
Yeah.
I was starting to stand up again because we had that gig that we were going to play. So I was standing up, practicing the whole autograph set, because my first show with autograph that I ever did is on YouTube. A friend of ours had filmed the whole show, so that's what I practiced to before I pop that on YouTube, and I play along with it. Because we don't get a chance to rehearse. We're just going to show up and get up on that stage and hit it. So we all practice to that set. But, you start to develop bad habits because when you're in a band performing live, you play different. When you're on stage and you're playing in a song situation live, and you just end up playing a little different than just running scales like I have a tendency to do at home. Like I'm sitting practicing things.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that when I get going, when things get back to normal, I'm going to have to do some adjusting. I already have that in my head that, I'm going to have to adjust things a little bit.
I totally agree with that. I mean, there's two types of aspects to, well, probably more than that, because there's the performance part, there's the playing part, and there's the playing at home, and there's so many different variables, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. Before I let you go, we didn't talk much about House of Lords, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
The latest album.
Oh, you got it.
I got it. Yeah, came in the mail yesterday. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, New World, New Eyes. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic album. Really, really good album. Like I mentioned to you yesterday, I put it on Amazon Music in my truck. And I was listening to it. I was like, wow, this is really good. And I hadn't. Sometimes you fall out of the loop of there being so much music coming out, and so the last House of Lords album I had actually bought was Big Money, and that was quite a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I have everything up to that point, and I was like, oh man, I haven't listened to these guys in so long. I've gotta. So I pulled this on, and Perfectly You and I came on. And I was like, wow, this is a killer song. So then I sent it to my buddy, and I said, have you heard this song? He's like, no. I said, what did you think of it? He goes, I love it. He goes, that's an amazing song. So sure enough, I went and I bought it, and it came yesterday. But I mean, the bottom line is it's a fantastic album.
Yeah, it was really cool. James Christian is from Connecticut originally. He was in a cover band around.
Really?
Yeah, a band called Eyes. It was all before, and then...
Not the same Jeff Scott Soto-wise.
No, it was totally different. But he, James goes to California. I believe he said he was down to his last few dollars, and then the whole thing happened with Gene,
Yeah.
He auditioned for it, and but I got a call.
A good run.
Yeah. I got a call from him in 2005, and... he says, "Look, I'm putting House of Lords together, a new version." He says to me, "Have you ever written melodic rock?" He says, "We have to go back to the original thing." I guess they tried something on a previous album called Power and Myth,
yeah,
which has a lot of good songs on it, but apparently the fans of House of Lords didn't take to it as well as their earlier albums. So it had gotten some unfavorable reviews and stuff. So James comes to me and says, "Have you ever written a melodic rock song before?" And I was just looking to really get into something, and I said, "Yes, I know all about it, but I didn't even know what a melodic rock song was." So I just said, I didn't have a clue, but I just said yes. And but I had some song ideas already. I sent them. They loved them, and that's when we did the whole World Upside Down album. And man, that album just went over huge. That just like took that band and put it right back, So it's been pretty. It's been a good ride with them. I've done 8 records with them. I don't get to speak to James much at all. Since this whole thing, so I don't really know what's going on with the band. If something comes up tour-wise or something like that, and he wants to do something, as long as it doesn't interfere with what I got going on with Autograph, I'd be more than happy to do it. But I did promise the guys in Autograph. I gave them my word that all their gigs would be honored. First, I just have to do that because honestly, House of Lords didn't tour that much. If the band toured like all the time, we'd go over to Europe for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then that'd be it. We wouldn't do anything else the whole year. We'd start working on another record. And me and the drummer, BJ Zampa, all we wanted to do was be on the road.
Yeah.
I would have lived in Europe if, I would have stayed on the road all year long, all over the place.
And why no North American dates? I
don't know, man. We didn't really have an agent that would take the band on, and we had a lot of people that said they were going to do it, that I had made contacts with, and all of them just never really came through with something. I don't know if it had to do with money, whatever. I don't know.
It's interesting, like. To see, I think it'd be amazing for House of Lords to be at the M3. You know what I mean?
Everybody said that House of Lords should be on the Monsters of Rock cruise. House of Lords should be at M3. House of Lords should be. It's like, yeah, we should have been. So I don't know if it was something out of my hands. I didn't deal with a lot of that. That was all James. So I don't know if I don't know if things were offered that didn't get accepted, but the band was more popular in Europe, and that's where we went. And that's the one thing I love about Autograph, is that Autograph is more popular in the U.S.
Yeah, California. California band, right?
You go fly in for a weekend, fly home, fly in, fly home. It's great.
Yeah. And people love those songs. I mean, they're timeless, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't, it's great to play them, and you hear people yelling the entire thing, turn up the radio, turn up the radio.
but I have to admit, I mean, the new songs are great, too. The last album, and you guys did a single last year, was Souls of Fire or On Fire?
Yeah, Souls on Fire. It's great, and it was my first work with them. I'm a writer. I write a lot of music. Not lyrics, but I write just music. So I send those guys a lot of stuff. So when things, I know a lot of people have used this time to do other things, but I know our focus is to get back performing again. We're all like in a situation where we really need to be on stage with each other, and it's kind of really important to us,
I can't. I mean, I cannot wait to get out to see a show. I have to be honest. I mean, like, it's been over a year now, right? And I've seen any live music. It's crazy. So, I must ask though about House of Lords. I mean, originally they were on Simmons Records on Gene Simmons' label. Does Gene ever have any involvement with the band? Like, does he ever? Nothing, eh?
No, not at all. That was for that era of the band. I think James might have talked to him at one point years ago when we were getting back together, and a person that I had known had mentioned House of Lords to Gene, because he said, "Hey, my buddy plays guitar for House of Lords." He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember signing him to my label," and
Yeah, I know. I mean, there was 3 bands that I liked. I mean, there was House of Lords, there was a Canadian band called Gypsy Rose that was signed to Simmons Records, and Silent Rage, and liked all 3 of those bands. So, but it just never, I don't think it took off how Gene had anticipated that it would, right?
Well, it once again, you're talking about a band that came in. He signed him in the late '80s.
Yeah,
they didn't have enough time. You're talking about a band that came out '88 or '89, and then you're trying to keep things in momentum, and you've got this whole new era, era of music coming at you that is just going to kill that whole thing of what you're trying to do. So
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I think back to when House of Lords came out, and I remember Gene had wanted them. He kind of told them to change the name because it was how did you pronounce that? Jafria? How do you pronounce that? Jafria? And he got James in the band because they had David Glenn Isley, and then it became, it was a little bit heavier sound too than what Jafria was, and it was kind of cool. And so I believe like 2 or 3 of the guys came from that, and then they formed House of Lords. It was kind of a cool thing. And
actually, it wasn't until I got into Autograph that I finally met Chuck Wright.
Really?
The original, because we did a show that Quiet Riot was on, and Chuck's been in Quiet Riot forever.
Yeah.
So it was a real pleasure to finally get to meet him, and get to talk with him about some of the House of Lords things, because it's I'm playing his stuff. I'm playing a lot of stuff Chuck was involved in.
Yeah, and that was a great lineup. Like the first incarnation was, the rhythm section was killer. Ken Mary and Chuck Wright,
drummer.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Exactly. So I mean, we're going back 30 years, which is crazy. But I actually, when I was in Portugal a year and a half ago, just after my robbery, I found the first House of Lords on vinyl.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, man, I got to buy this. And it was mint. It was in mint condition. I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I was pretty happy about that. But
That's how I met the keyboard player for Whitesnake, Mikkel Lupi. I went to see Whitesnake, and me and I took a picture on stage before they went on. I mean, they were the only band playing in front of the big Whitesnake banner.
Oh, cool.
And so we see the show, I go home, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I have an inbox from this guy, Mikkel Lupi. He goes, "Hey, I didn't know you were at the show tonight. I'm a big fan." And I go, "Oh no, I didn't know you were in the audience tonight. I'm a big fan of the band." And I said, and I'm going, "Who the hell is this?" So it's 4 a.m. I look and I look up Mikkel Lupi, and it says keyboard player for Whitesnake. I'm going, "Oh my God," It's like, so Mikkel was a huge fan of the very first House of Lords record. That's what got to. As a matter of fact, he has a version of Love Don't Lie that he had done.
Oh wow!
Solo record that he was very young. So it was just that kind of got me to meet Joel and Reb, all the other people. So it was just kind of cool that because of House of Lords that I got to meet him as well and make that whole connection. And Mikkel Lupi is on that record that you're holding.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's been on the last two. He does this big keyboard intro on the last record, Saint of the Lost Soul. He wrote this big, huge keyboard intro and played through Harlequin, the first track, and then he wrote another keyboard intro for this record and plays through that song as well.
That must have been a thrill for him, being a fan of the first album. That's pretty cool.
I was really honored to have him, on the record, especially because Whitesnake's one of my favorite bands. But just to have him be such a fan of House of Lords, it was like, wow, okay. Well, this is a great connection, Yeah.
It's funny about Love Don't Lie that you just mentioned. Up here in Canada, that was the only video we ever saw. It was on Much Music. They played it on there. I think actually it was an episode that Gene, I think he hosted, and he was promoting Simmons Records at the time. But then when Hair Nation came out, they started playing I Want to Be Loved. And I had no idea that was actually a single. I was like, I always thought it was only Love Don't Lie.
Yeah, no, they had a few things, that it wasn't just Can't Find My Way Home. They had other stuff, so it's too bad. That band, I really felt House of Lords could have been a lot bigger. Like if they came out in '85, that band would have been really still. I think they would have been even bigger, or.
Yeah, and I mean, Jafria was at that time, and they on their first album they had that one hit single. I can't.
Yeah, I love that song too.
What is that called? I have a CD. I can't remember.
Call to Your Heart.
Call to Your Heart. That's right.
Yeah, great song. Oh my God, love that song.
Yeah, that was a great song. And then I actually have the second album on vinyl. I found that up here about a year ago. But I don't like it as much as the first Jafria album. So.
Right.
It's all good. Anyways, Jimmy, I've taken up so much of your time, man. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Oh, I told you I talk a lot.
No, it's great, man. Lots of content, and we got to talk a lot of guitar stuff, which was a thrill for me.
I don't know if this whole thing's going to be too long for you to post, but you can edit it if you want or whatever.
No, to be honest with you, this week I posted one of an hour 52. And the next one was like an hour and a half or an hour 40 or something like that. So we're all good.
Okay, cool.
And it's funny because my listeners don't seem to mind. They're like, the more content, the better.
Well, you find out a lot about a person too. The more they talk, and like I said, I've interviewed a lot. And people tell me at the end of interviews, they go, "Oh, thank God you like to interview and talk." He said, we've interviewed some famous people that'll give you one word answer, and you're just sitting there. You don't know what to do,
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be interviewed. They don't want to be bothered, or I like talking to other people,
Oh, I do too. And it gets really hard. You've got all you do your homework. You've got your questions, and if it's a one-word answer, the interview goes by really quick.
Yeah, because
and then you're not prepared. You have nothing.
You can't draw blood from a stone. You're trying to get give me something, But,
exactly. So I appreciate the taking the time.
Tyson, I appreciate you. I'm glad we finally got together. I know we talked for the last couple weeks here trying to lock this in, but it's been a real pleasure today.
Okay, well, you enjoy the rest of your day and keep in touch.
Absolutely. You stay in touch too. You have my number.
Okay, Jim. Take it easy.
All right.
Okay. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.
To be